Hello everyone, my name is Cynthia Ritchie. I'm from the USA. A lot of my friends have begun to call me Pagogori as I've traveled Pakistan for the past 10 years. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you all. And one of the things that I absolutely want to express is my appreciation, I know, with my British and my German counterparts, Danny and Brigitte as well. It's important that I share with you just how welcome we feel in your country, because as you know, the media is not always completely accurate as it relates to people-to-people relations. And thankfully, things are taking a more positive turn for Pakistan. When I visited in 2009, certainly things were not the same. Public perception, global perception was not the same for Pakistan as it is now. And I would simply say that we are all grateful, our families are grateful, because we know of the South Asian hospitality and how you truly are as Pakistanis, as Muslims, as Christians, as members of various faiths in this dynamic country. So I just want to express my gratitude. I have studied actually the educational systems across Pakistan, and I've noticed a number of common factors. We have many common factors between USA and Pakistan, and that may come as a surprise for some. Some common factors are good, some things are not so good. I come from the South in the United States, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and so forth, and Southerners are known for their hospitality, very much so like South Asians are known for their hospitality. If you were to come into my mother's home, you would be fed whether you want to or not. She would make sure you have tea. It would be iced tea, maybe not hot tea, but she would serve you iced tea, and you probably would take home a casserole. And that's very much the way Pakistan has been for me. In fact, when my mother was a little bit worried when I first came to Pakistan, we had a Skype call, and she saw me after being here for a couple of weeks, and she saw my torso, and she said, "Cynthia, it looks like you've put on some weight." And I said, "Well, probably, Mother, because everywhere I go, the Pakistanis feed me." And her response was, "Oh, thank God. If they're feeding you, they're taking care of you," right? So this was something that was a common factor that I noticed that we had between Americans and Pakistanis. But what started that was my parents teaching me to read. And as Danny rightly said, from a very early age, from before I can actually remember, my mother took the time to read a bedtime story to me. My father took the time to read it, and both were working parents, so they would take turns. It was very much a team effort. Attention is one of the greatest reinforcers. Children will do what you do. They are more likely to do what you do versus what you say. If you tell a child to read a book, and yet they don't see you reading a book, what do you think is the likelihood that they will actually do as you say, right? So what was important for me was to model the desired behaviors that we wish to see in society. Books, National Geographic magazines. How many of you know National Geographic magazines? Yes, okay. So every month when we would get one, there was always a map. And I would wait by the mailbox for the delivery of that National Geographic magazine, because I would steal the map before my father could get the magazine. and so when he got the magazine, I could hear him downstairs, "Cynthia Dawn Ritchie, where's this map?" Because I would take the maps and I would actually pin them to the walls of my bedroom, because I wanted to plan. And this was when I was maybe a little bachcha, 7 or 8 years old, okay? So I was a little kid, and I wanted to explore the world. And so my father knew that I was stealing the maps from National Geographic magazines. And so when he came up and when he saw what I was doing with them, he could not get upset with me. He could not punish me, because he knew that I was more interested in learning about our world. I was more curious, and he wanted to foster that curiosity. And it's because of reading from different countries and cultures and places that encouraged me to take up my friend's offer to come to Pakistan. Had I relied on media, for instance, had I relied on what I heard on the news, I might never have been able to visit this amazing country. And yes, it has many, many challenges, but you know what? The challenges here in Pakistan, I also see in the United States. And one of which I will share with you here, because education and reading are obviously intricately intertwined. And one of the things that I think is important to share that I've noticed in the South, because in the South, there's a culture of not disrespecting one's elders. We always respect our elders. That's a good thing. That is always a good thing. However, within that context, there's also the concept of never questioning your elders. So the youth have a tendency of not wanting to ask questions because it's considered disrespectful. This often translates into the educational system, which, in my opinion, should not be. Children should be encouraged to ask questions. And from the school systems here, what we would call the elementary, to the college systems, I have seen children slapped for asking questions. I have seen children slapped for asking questions in Deep South in the United States years ago. So these are things that we have in common. When we learn better, we must do better. We have to encourage questions. And adults and teachers should be comfortable in saying, Beta, I don't know the answer, but let us find out together. Thank you for asking these questions. And I'll give you an example of when I was asked to speak at a university a few years ago. So I had traveled all the way from the United States, and again, these were university students. About 300 or 400 were piled into an auditorium, and the administrators were there, and they said, Cynthia has come all the way from America. Do you have any questions for her? And not one of them raised their hand. They were terrified. And I was wearing just a normal conservative Western blue pantsuit, nothing fancy. But the administrators started actually berating the students for not asking questions. Cynthia's here. Why aren't you asking questions? So I looked at the administrators and I respected them for the work that they do. They are often underpaid. They are often overburdened, as teachers are. As you know, teachers and law enforcement, first responders have a great duty to society, but they are often overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. So I respected them for their work, but then I also asked them if I could spend an hour alone with the students. And of course they obliged because I was the guest. I knew they could not say no. So once the administrators left, I spent the next amazing hour with these students. And I said, I cracked a few jokes. I asked of them, how many of you have seen the movie Avatar? And of course they all raised their hand. They'd all seen Avatar. And I said, some of my friends call me Avatar because I'm so tall and I like to wear blue. And they loved that. They actually laughed. And so we had a funny moment. We exchanged humor. We built rapport. And instead of asking them to ask me questions to stir their curiosity, I began to ask them, to engage them in conversation. So I worked to model the behavior that I desired to see from them, because it's only via curiosity and exchange of information that we can learn from one another. In the movies, we know how historically Westerners have been portrayed and how Pakistanis have been portrayed. If someone watches Homeland, I think everyone knows here, Pakistanis are portrayed in a very negative way in many cases. Americans are portrayed in the other way. If we're all spies and you guys are terrorists, are any of us going to talk to one another? No. But that's Hollywood, right? This is movie making. This is not ground reality. Ground reality is people-to-people connections. And we can establish that by reading, by encouraging dialogue, by not being afraid to ask questions. And I have questions that I want to spend a couple more minutes asking of the audience. How many of you, because I'm an American, how many of you have been to America?
I lived and I raised my kids over there and I relocated myself to my country.
Zabardast.
And my daughter was, when she was in the 6th grade, she was the ambassador in the Fort Bend County in the library.
Texas. I know
and
exactly.
The group was arranging into their own, culture. There was a Japanese, there was a Muslim, so all these were being made as a group, and they arranged a reading session by, bringing people and telling them stories.
Wonderful. This is the type of thing that helps us connect because you've had experience. How many of you have been to UK? And how many of you have been to Germany? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I studied Grundstoffe 1 and Grundstoffe 2.
So the bottom line for me, the moral of the story for me is that not only my parents, but our teachers, we also had reading sessions. We would spend an hour every day. We would go to the library and we would choose. We would pick out a book that we wanted to read. Because typically if you try to force someone to do something, they automatically resist. That's human nature. But if you offer individuals choices, and if you encourage them with that attention, they are more likely to engage in those types of behaviors that we wish to see in society. And so because my parents taught me to read, and I watched them read, they encouraged my curiosity, which encouraged my desire for world travel, which brought me here to Pakistan. And let me say this to you, because I've been traveling Pakistan since 2009, and I now live and work here. Honestly, it has not been easy. As an American in Pakistan, U.S.-Pakistan relations tend to go on this roller coaster ride. But Pakistan, and I want to be very clear when I say this, Pakistan, through all its ups and downs, has been one of my greatest teachers. And I am a Christian, I am an American, but the vast majority of my experiences here in this country have been warm and welcoming as your Malmuna, as your guest. I no longer think of myself as a guest, I think of Pakistan as my second home, and it's because of all of you.
You mentioned it in your blog that it's more like Egypt.
Yes, yes. So as a child, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. He was the famous world traveling archaeological explorer. And I still haven't gone to Egypt, by the way. I want to, but Pakistan has actually become my Egypt. I have actually fulfilled my childhood dreams of living and exploring a culture that was completely foreign to everything that I knew. And it's because of all of you.
So can we go to Pakistanis? Let's clap for them.
Yes.
And I would like you to quote that we have challenges. The one you have referred to our youth actually. That do you remember that once you said that Pakistan do have so many challenges, but our only hope, and we are looking forward towards youth.
Yes, absolutely. I have maintained, I believe from the very beginning, that the youth are the future of Pakistan. Not just Pakistan, but globally. The youth have the passion, first of all, they have the energy, they want to do something, they need the right channel, they need the right direction, they need the right leadership. They need people that they can trust, they need people who are genuine and who are authentic. But the youth are the future of the country, because if we look at the history, and I say I'll say America and Pakistan because I'm an American in Pakistan. If we look at the history, we've had, especially during certain administrations, or the Carter administration, we've had great relations in the past. It is possible, but there are unfortunately so many special interests that the youth typically don't have an interest in, and that's a good thing. You should learn for yourself. Don't take my word for it. For those of you that have traveled from Mardan to the northern areas, I've been to all of those places, and they are beautiful and unique in their own way. You are the best ambassadors of your country by the way you conduct yourself. When you travel to another country, if someone says something negative about Pakistan or Muslims or whatever the case is, the best thing that you can do is conduct yourself in a gentlemanly and ladylike manner. As we would say in the Bible, turn the other cheek. Right? When someone says something to me because I'm a Gori or because I'm an American, I say, Koi baat nahi, I understand. Peace be upon you. That is the best thing that I can do.